Finally! You know what we get to talk about today? What's going on with gold and silver. Of course, we're mostly going to talk about the spot market, but we have to start with reality, which is supply and demand. And we all know the spot market is not reality and doesn't even really reflect reality. But let's just look at the supply and demand, because we've been taught to believe that Wall Street is an indication of how the economy is doing based on that supply and demand. But you know why gold and silver? Physical gold, physical silver. You know why it never goes to zero? Because it's used in every single sector of the global economy. I say that all the time because it happens to be true. So it has the broadest base of utility and the broadest base of demand. Well, this is a battle. This is a battle between fiat money, 10 trillion Zimbabwe dollars I can't buy anything with, and sound money that maintains your ability to purchase your same food basket and gives you an opportunity to expand your wealth. It's not an accident that gold is one of the three legs in dynastic wealth. That's wealth that's lasted in families at least 300 years. So let's go on, because I want to show you what's happening. I think we've got a huge squeeze up ahead. Even with spot gold and spot silver, well, spot gold making all-time nominal highs and silver running to conclude that cup formation. We're going to talk about both of them today. But we also have to look at the costs, because frankly, here I've got, well, it doesn't really matter. Frankly, here, I'll put this in there too. I've got all this fiat paper. They all cost roughly the same to make because they just push a button and pump it out, even though you have to work a whole lot harder if it's a $1 bill versus a $100 bill or a $10 trillion bill. But it takes nothing to put it together. But it does for physical gold and physical silver. It takes labor, it takes energy, it takes costs to mine gold and silver. And guess what? Those costs are now at the highest level that they've ever been. And with the global central banks saying, okay, let's bring on that hyperinflation by turning around to generate inflation, lowering the rates to inspire borrowing and spending. Basically, we are at a low point for gold, not a high point for gold. And certainly I'd say the same thing about silver. Now, I'm not saying that it won't bounce on the spot market, because goodness gracious, you can create as much gold and silver that does not nor ever will exist. But this next graph that I'm going to show you, and remember, I've got all of the links, you can check this out yourself, are the all-in costs to mine. And you can see, oops, let me grab my laser pointer. You can see how those costs are spiking. Let me tell you, if they go in to suppress the visible price of gold, either there will be a large premium that will come into play, or the price of gold will have to go up, because the miners are certainly not going to sell it at a loss. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. So is the spot price going to maintain that? Well, it certainly seems to. This just goes back a year. You can see how we're making all-time highs. I don't know yet where it's going to close today, but yesterday it closed at what? 2738.90. Some people are going to say, this is will gold go down? It's too expensive, blah, 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 blah. That's only if you don't understand fundamental value. Just like watching the stock market go up and up and up and thinking, it's going to go to the moon. Again, that's because you don't understand fundamental value. And that's what we try and do at Zang Enterprises, is help you make those educated choices that actually put your best interest first, because we're battling the global central banks and we're battling Wall Street, right? And what is this, David and Goliath? But let's take a look, because the reality is that spot gold is breaking out in every currency. Isn't that interesting? Why? Is it really gold going up and silver going up? It's the currencies going down. It's the currencies losing value because the central banks only have inflation as a tool. And understand, they're not calling it deflation, they're calling it disinflation because they don't want you to understand what's going on. They don't want you to have the ability to make educated choices because they want to make those choices for you. They want you to hold your wealth in their system, making it easier for them to steal. Personally, let's go out of the system. Physical gold, physical silver in your possession because, say it with me out there, if you don't hold it, you don't own it, and it is that simple. But silver is more exciting for some. And that's because that too has now broken out of that trading range on its way to 50, which, by the way, do I think we could see it by the end of the year? Sure I do. Let's see, that closed yesterday at 34.08. So we don't really have that much farther to go. And I think that this is overall a very beautiful thing because what it's telling me is that the upward pressure, regardless of the fact that they can create as much gold and silver through those contracts that does not nor ever will exist, this is showing me that that pressure is breaking out, that the central bankers are having trouble holding that down. I think they've really lost control. And certainly they're between a rock and a hard place because there's only one way. I mean, it really does make it so simple. There's only one way to fight inflation, and that's with deflation. There's only one way to fight deflation, and that's with inflation. But here, now they're focusing on jobs. Isn't that interesting? Because you cannot turn a ship in a thimble of water. And a big part of the problem with central bank policy, at least as it stands today, is it takes 12 to 18 months going through the system for the choice that they made last month, right, to actually have an impact on the job market. However, what did it have an instant impact with? The stock market, the bond market, and the bond market is again with rates rising, telling the central bank, no, we do not believe you. And quite honestly, as much as you might think that the central banks have all of the power, especially when you commingle it with the government, the reality is Wall Street can overwhelm both of those. Keep that in mind. But once you know the truth, and Adam was asking me some questions earlier, and I told him, I said, save them and ask them. So if you guys don't think of the question that he asked, well, then he's going to ask that question because I think it's important. You know, how many times can you be lied to when you do not know the truth? So now I'm going to go right to the questions as soon as they pull it up. Don't look, okay. Tell me why, okay. And Jacob Wasserman asks, hey, Lynette, is it a bad idea to buy graded slab pre-33 coins on Facebook Marketplace, eBay? A friend/relative or in person at coin shops? What are the risks involved and how do I mitigate it? Well, you know, the risk of buying slabbed coins or any gold or any silver, frankly, from eBay or Facebook Marketplace is that really, do you really know who's on the other end of that transaction? And how do you actually know that what you're getting is real and certified? So there have been a lot of instances, especially on eBay, where people thought they were getting one thing and they don't. And in fact, I have in here this is my Bitcoin, right? And it looks like a gold coin, doesn't it? Yeah. So the danger is that you're not getting what you think you're getting. That's one of the big dangers. And I'm going to go through all of those and then I'll come back to the other part of it. A friend, relative, it kind of depends on where they got it, right? So is it your friend or relative that is in the industry that has the connections with direct wholesalers and with those that are in the industry to make sure that what you're getting is certified and real? I don't know. But if they do, I mean, I inherited coins from my mother when she passed. So, of course, I was the one that put her into those coins, so I knew what they were and that they were actually real. So it kind of depends on that one. And coin shops. Coin shops typically will have real coins and they'll make sure that they're graded and all of that, but they don't necessarily have access to the reach. And really what we do at Zang Enterprises is we look at historically what performs for what function. So we put goals and functions first, and then it's the right tool for the job. So if you're just talking about a slabbed coin, even in that, the function can vary actually quite a bit. Are you trying to pay off a mortgage? Are you trying to convert it into another income producing asset? Is that asset likely to be stocks down the road, not now? So what are you trying to accomplish? You can just go and buy gold and buy silver, and certainly people do that, and certainly you have to do what you are comfortable with first, regardless of what anybody else says, including me. But what we do is actually execute a strategy that's just based upon history and how things are likely to perform, so that whatever your goals are, you're actually meeting them. And the strategy is in layers. Additionally, I mean, anybody can throw you into gold, but what happens when it's time to sell it, to liquidate it? If you have this relationship created, like if you're working with Zang Enterprises, the way we've set up the exit strategy, and that's one thing to ask everybody, what's the exit strategy? We have it set up in such a way that if you are going to gain the most by going through auction, you'll have that ability. Selling it directly to the wholesaler, you'll have that ability. However you're going to capture the most gains, we can marry it. Right now, a string of coins doesn't really matter. You're not going to capture any premium from them. However, when gold fever fully kicks in, those premiums have known to go up to 30%. Well, maybe you don't have a string altogether, but we do. Between all of our clients, we'll have the ability to create that string if it's going to mean that you're going to capture the most. You won't get that if you buy it on eBay, or you buy it at Walmart, or you buy it from a friend, or you buy it from a coin shop, or even if you buy it from another dealer. So the question is, what's the exit strategy? Because it isn't just going into it. That's important. You want to do that in layers, and you want to base that on your goals. But it's also that exit strategy. So that's what you get with Zang Enterprises. And by the way, I mean, I'll just say this again. We do deal in physical metal, right? Physical gold, physical silver, you take possession. If you're really married to an IRA, we can do that too. I don't really like that. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it, because you've got to do what you're comfortable with, but you know my motto. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. And the only thing you can do inside of IRAs is bullion anyway. And as you all know, I am a collectible buyer. I am not a bullion buyer, because I think that there's a high probability of confiscation. So Annette asks, what is happening? Metals are rising so fast. Okay, so here's kind of technically how that works. And maybe, can you give me the silver chart again, please? Can you put that up? Okay, so let's say that you had bought silver and it went up to 32.75 and you still held on to it, and you have more of a trading mentality, right? So it's not like you're looking at the strategy, but you're thinking about gold and silver as a trade, which was one of the things that Adam brought up. So I'm sure we're going to talk about that today. But then you didn't do it. And then it went all the way down to 26.50 and you went, oh man, if it ever gets that high again, I'm going to sell it, right? So what does it do? It goes up, it dips into that pool of buyers that pushes the price back down. When it has concluded all of pushes into the pool of sellers, not buyers. Buyers are on the bottom. The support level on the bottom, we're talking about the resistance level on the top. It dips into that pool of sellers, so they're more sellers than buyers. That pushes the price down. When it breaks above that, right, it's like a spring. Now, I'm not so good at doing this, but let's see if I can, right? So the price is suppressed. And then when you remove that suppression, it springs in a direction. In the case of a resistance level on top, boom, on top. So what is happening is, even in Wall Street world, there are a lot more buyers of those contracts than there are sellers. Plus, everything is swirling around, indicating an upcoming crisis. We don't know what's going to happen in November. It's not going to matter who gets elected in the U.S., but that puts a lot of uncertainty on the place. We certainly have a geopolitical risk all over the place. 4 wars or 3 overt and a few more that we can't see, right? So we have a lot of geopolitical risk. So we have a lot of monetary risk with all of the key central bankers, basically, even though they didn't say we're sending you into hyperinflation, when they lower the interest rate, that is to create more inflation, right? They want to print more money because everything is trying to implode. It is so overvalued that it wants to implode on itself. So what do? You reflate it. You put more air. In Wall Street's case, you put more money into the system to keep things look like they're going up. So that's actually what's happening from both a technical level and also from a supply and demand level. And we could actually even go back to that supply and demand chart that you're looking at here. And this isn't all of it. We're going to put together a video so you can really actually see all of the areas that gold is used. Physical gold is used. Physical silver is used. But just in here, you have jewelry fabrication, technology, investment, central banks. Right? It's also in many other places, but that gives you an idea. When I say that we have the broadest base of functionality, it's because it's used in all of those different areas and many, many, many more. And so is silver, both of them. So, but I think that part of the rise is just that there are a lot more buyers than there are of sellers these days. And so that's what we're getting from that. Yes. Oh. Sorry about that. I didn't notice that. Thank you. Okie doke. And Carl R. asks, Lynette, do you know or recommend any safe private vaults? Well, I know that there are 2 private vaults here in Phoenix, And one of them will take delivery, do everything under camera so that you can see everything. The other is into a side of a mountain. There are others in other parts of the country, and I think we're working on putting that list together. So, but not a bank safe deposit box. That's kind of where I personally draw the line because it's too connected in. So you can give us a call at 833-GLDZANG. You can book an appointment, have a conversation with one of our strategy specialists, and they can give you names, phone numbers. They can get you all set up. And ML asks, question, why doesn't the COMEX London, LBMA stop delivery to the BRICS countries if they are afraid of defaulting? Well, mostly what they're doing is they're not actually delivering the physical. They're delivering the contracts. And generally speaking, the whole point of the contracts is not about taking delivery. It is about just rolling that contract over. Having said that, in 2020, with the silver and the gold contracts, when they stood for delivery, the COMEX, the LBMA, I don't know which one of them, but they declared a force majeure, which means that they just paid them out in a premium, but with dollars. So they didn't allow them actually to take delivery. So there are ways to cover this over so that you and I don't see that. But they could certainly stop delivery, but of course they've got the exchange themselves, and they're all mining countries, especially in South Africa or in Africa, in Russia, in China. I mean, so, I don't think, if you're talking about if the exchanges are afraid of defaulting, they're not afraid of defaulting because they will just call a force majeure and pay it out in dollars that have no value. And Martin ZZZ, is silver going to catch up with gold? What ratio can we see if so? Well, we could certainly see and have certainly seen in the past where the nominal price, so the spot price that you see on silver, moves up faster than gold. In fact, I wonder... Okay, so we're going to try this again this week.
Round 5.
Okay, round 5. And I just closed out of it, so I should be able to, I'm the one that's using this, and there's the Fred. But let me go to stock charts, which they have a lot that's free here, stockcharts.com. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Okay, need to log in. Oh, it logged me in. Miracle of miracles. Bear with me here for just 1 second. Okay, and I'm going to put the spot gold in there. Okay, it's giving it to me in a better size. And what I'm going to look for is, and actually, if you show this so everybody can see how to do this, that would be great. Okay, so I want you guys to write this down because there's a lot of free stuff that you can do in here, and it's stockcharts.com. Now in stock charts, you see over on the bottom corner where I'm going to click is under more tools, and I'm going to go to this interactive perf chart. That is a relative performance chart. So you can look at anything you want in relation to anything else that you want. In this particular case, let me make this a little bit smaller so I can see the whole thing. It's not really being very cooperative, and I'm going to put silver in here. And that is so tiny I can't even see it up here, and I don't think I did it right. Hold on. I got to make this big enough to see. Okay. No, I misspelled it. Silver. Apparently, I can't spell today. Why is it doing that?
That's weird.
don't know why it's doing it. Let me try something else. No, what is it doing? I don't want to save it. Oh my God. These guys came in here and they wanted to make sure that everything was all set up properly. I don't know. Maybe I needed to do that. No. Okay, I'm just going to go save and let's see what it does. All right, maybe it'll do it now. No.
You're hitting Shift S, right?
Well, I don't have to hit Shift
Okay.
S. I don't on my other laptop anyway.
Don't.
Let me take it all out. I'm going to start for. I'm telling you, we are going to figure this out. No, it's not giving me any.
Yeah, one thing.
Oh, maybe I didn't have the number lock
for the other
on.
thing to
Let me
break.
see. Nope. Nope.
Okay.
This is so frustrating.
It is.
It is so very frustrating. Let me try something else. No.
Because
It's-
zoomed in?
No, it isn't because it wasn't zoomed in before. And it
Click in the box again, but use commas just to double check because it's not highlighted.
okay, let me
Exit. There you
go.
let me exit. Okay, so this is spot chart.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just going to allow all because I didn't allow all before. Okay, so this is the spot gold chart. I'll show you from the beginning. And what I want to do is I want to do a relative performance chart so you can see what it looks like spot gold versus spot silver over a period of time. So there's my interactive perf chart, and I've got gold on there. Okay, gave me that so far. What are you pointing at?
Keep going.
Now, if I could just spell, that would be great. ILVER. Ah, hallelujah.
Let's go.
Okay. So this is spot gold and spot silver, and this is going back 200 days. The spot gold is in red. The spot silver is in blue. So you can see that at the moment and for periods of time, silver has outperformed, spot silver has outperformed spot gold. Now I'm going to go down here and I'm going to drag it, right? So you can see how I'm doing that because I want you to be able to do this too. And so, it always, what we've been taught to go shorter, think short term. But you always have to look at the bigger and the longer term picture. And you can see that certainly there are times going back to 2011 when silver peaked, right? That it definitely outperformed spot gold. That could matter if you were a trader, if you wanted to trade it, but I'm not a trader. You can see over the long term, and this is true through hyperinflation because I've looked at this so many times, where spot gold will always outperform spot silver simply because spot gold is the primary currency metal. Spot silver is the secondary currency metal. When they do those overnight resets, they reset it against gold. Though we certainly know that big banks, etc., hold both. If we were looking, I have that in here. If we were looking at the ratio, okay, this is a $1, can you take me? Thank you. This is a $1 gold coin, a 20th of an ounce. This is a 1 ounce silver dollar, right? So in the beginning, these were equal and it was a 20-to-1 ratio. Now, obviously, the ratio is much greater. Do I think it's going to go to 20-to-1 again? No, probably not. But I would expect to see it maybe to go to 50-to-1, right? So that gap to narrow because it has a tendency to narrow as you're leading into the hyperinflation. But then once you really hit that, that's when it expands and gold outperforms silver. And it just holds your purchasing power better. And as I showed you in the food prices, remember that basket of food from 1913 to 2024 went up, according to the BLS, about 2,500%. Spot silver went up 2,900%. Spot gold went up over 12,000%, right? So if you're looking at it as a trade, which is not what I suggest or recommend, then you'll see that grow narrow. But I say look at it what you want it to accomplish. Because for me, I like silver for my barterable position. And I like constitutional silver for my barterable position. Although anything that's marked sterling or 925 is, and any gold that you have, right? If it's 14 carats, I think that's 58% pure. If it's 18 carats, that's 75% pure, etc., right? So gold and silver in any form is monetary at its base, as long as it's physical. The other thing, can we go back to that perf chart, please? Because the other thing that I want you to notice is, remember that spot gold is red, and this was the previous high going back to 2011, and we had the breakout over here, right? So it already concluded that cup formation. Silver, spot silver, is coming to conclusion in that cup formation. So I think maybe it could outperform it on its trek there, but you can also see it's a lot more volatile. I don't really care about the volatility, I'm telling you. And I don't really care about the price, because in neither case are we seeing anything that is at fundamental value. Does that tie into one of the questions you asked me earlier? And do you see somebody else asking that question, or you want to just ask it?
I'll ask it. I'll ask it right now, if you will.
Sure.
But the question was this, okay, chat? So the question was this. Question is this, is the gold is continually going up, right? I'm looking at gold as a replacement for a 401k IRA, meaning I'm dollar cost averaging into gold over a long period of time. As the gold keeps rising up, it's reaching what I would consider new highs. I know it's not the highest of highs, but the new highs that we're seeing. Do I keep buying right now? Do I keep dollar costing? Do I just keep accumulating right now as the price is going up? That's essentially the question. And then the kind of the back end of that, tying to fundamental value, is why is it that I can't remove myself from the nominal $40,000 fundamental value of gold, right? Why is it when I hear you say, oh, 1 ounce could be closer to $40,000, I say to myself, well, great, I'd rather have the $40,000, so I'm going to accumulate the ounce, but only to exchange it for the $40,000, not to hold the gold and preserve my wealth. So I'm maybe stuck, or maybe I'm still jacked into the matrix, if you will.
We are still jacked into the matrix, there's no doubt. And I'm going to tell you guys, even with me, even in all of the studies that I've done over all of these years, remember, I've been studying currency life cycles since 1987. That's a very long time. And it even took me, I would honestly say, probably 9 or 10 years until it, bam, kind of clicked. But you know how, and I know that there's another strategy specialist that I'm thinking about that I remember when it clicked for her. Let me bring that up, okay? And this is, first of all, when they created the system, they knew that, number one, people married the legal money of the state.
Right.
Right? So that's why you've known that your whole life. You've been told that this stuff is money, right? You haven't been told that this is money.
Exactly.
You've been told that this is money.
Exactly.
So what I've been asking you to do, and what you're working on doing, is having a paradigm shift. And I'm sure a lot of people out there that have been trying to tell their friends what has been going on know how frustrated they are, because they think in terms of dollars as
Right.
being money, or
Exactly.
euros, or yen, or
Exactly.
wherever you are. They think of government-based money as the fiat money as money when it's not. So it's your training, and you haven't been here that long yet, right?
Correct.
Wait until you've been here for 5 or 6 or 10 years, and you've heard me talk about it, and you've seen all of the charts and graphs, and you're
Right.
editing all of this stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's going to make a case, but let me show you what helped one of the strategy specialists understand it. And I talk about this all the time, and I was trying to get that, let's see, purchasing power.
Yeah, no, you're right. Low blood pressure. You're right. You're absolutely correct. And
What?
yeah, he was just saying it is the highest of highs.
It is the nominal high.
Right. That's
But
kinda why I
if you
said that,
take
right.
into account, and see, that's that nominal confusion. So if you had a $20 bill, like here, $20 bill that was created in 1969, and you had a $20 bill that was created in 1977, look, they're almost identical. And how about this $20 gold certificate, right? Here, this was the original money, $20 gold certificate. Then they moved us to this. Notice how there is that gold circle on there? So, hey, this is a gold certificate. It is backed by gold, meaning if you were unhappy with the government and the way they were spending money, you could walk in with this and walk out with this. The people had the power. The public had the power. And that's what I want to see again, because it's the only way we're going to hold their toes to the fire. But what did they do? They converted this to this. How close do those look to you? The only difference almost is that gold certificate gone. Then we got used to seeing this. Then Nixon converted us to this. Can you see how much alike they look? That supports the nominal confusion, because what you could buy with this back in 1913 was a huge basket of groceries that would last a family over a month. I mean, when my parents got married, because I remember hearing this story. So my mother was born in 1915. My father was born in 1910. He was working. He was making $15 a week. He married my mom. Well, he did love her, but he always joked that he married my mom because she was making $20 a week. So let's put that into perspective here. She was working for one of these a week or one of these a week. What if this is all you were getting paid? I mean, now I don't ever go to McDonald's, so I could be totally wrong about this, but I've heard that it costs you this much for Big Mac or something ridiculous like that.
Almost, yes.
Yeah, you're not, if you have two people with you, you're not walking out under $20 anymore. That used to be a thing.
Even for two people?
And there's no such thing as a value menu anymore. It's not a dollar menu. It's a value menu. It's yeah.
Right. So these are the things that we have to think about. Purchasing power of the consumer. Consumer dollar. Okay, here we go. Now, yes, let me have that. Now you can see we're at the Federal Reserve Education Department, the Fred. And this is the Consumer Price Index, so the purchasing power of the consumer dollar. You've seen me use this chart a gazillion times, but I'm going to blow up if I can. Nope. If I can, here we go. Okay, I think I goofed that up somehow. Let me see. Oh yeah, I totally goofed it up. Let me reset it.
Yep.
I've got to reset it.
You
Hold
can actually
on.
just pinch to zoom out a little bit, Lynette, if you want to.
I could, but
Oh,
it
I
didn't
see.
really quite work that way.
I see.
Okay, so that's why I did it. I kind of goofed it up. Sorry.
There you
Can you guys see that big fat zero right there? Can you see that? Can you see how close we are to that big fat zero?
It's crazy.
I mean, I really want you to think about this. The Federal Reserve is telling you the value, the fundamental value of this crap. And it is zero. But I want to show you something else, and I want to keep it this big just because you can really see it. And you saw before how I dragged it across. Well, you can do that with this too. And I encourage everybody to do this for themselves. And if you've got, I mean, you know, maybe you can go in and show those people that are doubters what's going on. Okay, so I think, let's see.
This is, yeah, to piggyback off of that, this is definitely my favorite chart to show people that things are changing. You know,
Right.
This is the easiest one. It's so clear. It's so clear.
It really is. It's absolutely so clear, right? I mean, how, you know, I know it's hard for people to say, well, I mean, 2,700 for an ounce of gold. Whoa, that's really expensive. It's not gold going up, guys. It's this losing its purchasing power value. And when you have central banks that are dropping the rates to increase inflation, what they're really telling you is that this is overvalued and we're taking it down. And that's why, where's this $10 trillion Zimbabwe note? I can't buy anything with it. Right? Okay.
Oh, I got a question.
Yes.
Arthur, the question was, is this the same thing that's happening to the euro? Yeah, I mean, it's
It
a
is.
worldwide thing, right?
It is 100% a global thing. Now, the U.S. was the first country, and we were the world reserve currency, so everybody had to use it to buy stuff. But we were the first country to remove gold's, backing. And look, I want to be really clear, and I want everybody to be really clear on the difference between backing and pegging. Because I was talking to a client the other day, and she said, boy, everybody else is talking about it like they're interchangeable. They're not interchangeable. If something is really backed, it's convertible. If something is pegged, it's just tied to the price that Wall Street is telling you it is. That's the main and key difference. So if it's not convertible, don't accept it. That's the battle for the global sound money movement. And the point of being at the table in the new system is to demand that this is convertible. Because otherwise, can you tell me how you're going to hold the politicians and the central bankers' toes to the fire? In fact, if it was convertible, you think we'd still need a central bank? But once they take us digital, if you read what they're talking about, look, we're going into hyperinflation. They're going to sell it to us. Mark my words on this, because this is what they've said. They're going to sell it to us by, if you give us this CBDC, there will not be any more inflation. No, because they've taken all of the purchasing power out of the currency. That means they got to grab your principal. That's what negative rates were about. That was the whole test on negative rates. And it didn't work, but they're going to do it again because there's no other option until you have nothing. And you can see that there's no, if I make this smaller, let me just kind of do that. And let me max this puppy out again. You know, can you see how intentional this was and by design? And by the way, you might say, but Lynette, look at the purchasing power went up then. Well, let's see, what year was that? That was 1920, after they had printed $2.4 for every dollar's worth of gold for every 20th of an ounce. that they had in deep storage. And guess what this was? And then you had the roaring 20s. So the public first was getting credit. They had access. There was a whole lot more paper in the system. And so people felt rich, right? And they gave the public credit. Then they took it away with the 1929 stock market crash. That was really them saying, oops, no more credit. All right, the market's imploded after enough risk was transferred from the few, so from the industrialist, from the banker, to the public, the naive and very gullible public. I don't want you to be naive or gullible, but then you can see that the purchasing power went up. And what was that? Between 1930 and 1933. Do you remember any stories of how awesome it was for people during the Depression? How their money regained all that value? No. And then they reset the currency from $20 to $35 overnight after they confiscated the gold from the public. And of course, you've seen what's happened since. So if there are any more questions about any of this, now that we can do this, by the way, guys, thank you very much.
You are so
Really,
very
really
well. You deserve the
appreciate it.
world. I am so sorry it took us so long to get this right.
That's all right. You still have your job. You're good.
Yay!
Okay. And ML asks, why do we use the GSR as an indication? Why is it relevant? Good question. Write that down and we'll come back to it. Woof asks, will there be a time in the near future where we'll go back to the gold standard? And if so, how will it help the economy, if at all? Well, the answer would indicate yes, because 100% of the time when this stuff fails, look at Zimbabwe, they need to get your confidence. This is a con game, right? So it requires confidence. Gold has confidence. You guys know in gold and silver, I trust. Okay, this stuff, I don't trust this stuff because as you've seen the purchasing power chart, that's easy enough for them to manipulate. It doesn't mean anything. So yes, we will go back on the gold standard. Now what level? I don't know, but we could certainly make it convertible at any level. Okay, you bring in this and it's 30% backed. You bring in this, you get 30% physical gold out of the system, because having gold actually backing a currency requires fiscal responsibility. Pegged, and what did Zimbabwe tell you? They told you it was backed. Yeah, well, it didn't create restrictions for them, did it? Not backed, pegged. There is a huge difference between something that is backed and something that is pegged. I don't give a crap if it's pegged. It means nothing because guess what? Historically, not one peg has ever withstood the test of time. Not one. And oh, by the way, I will be doing a piece on this next week. It does look like that's happening in the euro. Those cracks are definitely forming there. That peg system is breaking down. We're going to talk more about that next week. I think it's critically important that you understand that, though. And Richie Luxury asks, Lynette Zang, oh, haircut looks great. Do you guys like it? I'm gonna try doing it straight too, but thank you. It's actually pretty easy because I can kind of let it air dry. Also, when gold is revalued, do the price of goods go up? Actually, when it's revalued, the whole currency collapses in. So yes, the price of goods will also spike, but they've already been spiking. So it's the currency that loses all of its value. This is why it's critically important and why we built the strategy in layers, so that wherever we are as the currency is collapsing, wherever we are as the currency is being revalued, you're going to have the appropriate tool at that point, right? And it will evolve as this whole transition evolves. But the answer to that is yes, but they're already going up dramatically before that. That's the hyperinflation, and people can't afford anything.
So Quilton on, I don't know. They said $500 bills soon, which actually had me prompt a question. Do you typically see in these types of patterns? Do you see new bills being added, like $500 bills, before the hyperinflationary period, or is it?
There will be more zeros. Whether or not they're going to do that with a physical currency,
Right. That's what I was thinking. Right.
I'm not really sure,
Right.
because we used to have a $500 bill and a $1,000 bill and a $5,000 bill and a $10,000 bill, and those, by the way, are still legal tender. They didn't demonetize them. And I can remember I think I was like 12 or 13 years old, and I had somebody that was doing some business with my father brought 12 $1,000 bills to the house for him. Yep, and I was the only one that was home, so I took those bills. I had just gotten out of the shower, right? And I mean, I wasn't even going to put them down to dry off. I just sat on the family room sofa holding those bills in my hands as I was so afraid until my father got back, and then I gave it to him. Why did they take those away? Because they don't want you to have the ability to move a lot of wealth in a small package. They're talking about getting rid of the $100 bills, right? They're talking about getting rid of the $20 bills. They got rid of the 500 euro bills, right? So yeah. You've been in this country too long. Yeah, they did. So I don't think that they will issue necessarily a higher bill. I think that on the goods and services, more zeros will go on.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah. Value is constantly going down, right?
Correct.
Got it.
Okie doke. Hi, Lynette. It's Stephen from New York. Hi, Stephen. What part of New York? Your cut looks great. Thank you. Hope you're doing and feeling well. Thank you very much. I am doing and feeling well, but I'm not going to lie, because we have a relationship, you guys. I'm pooped. This has been a very extremely busy year, but great. So I am doing great. I'm just a little tired. If I took, I don't know. Never mind. Okay. Woof asks, I've heard gold will keep going up in price and then there'll be a dip, then rise again precipitously. Do you think that will happen, Lynette? Because if it does, I'd like to buy more at the dip. Well, buy it right along. And that way you don't have to worry about it, because nothing goes all the way up, just like nothing drops all the way down. You're going to have some bumping along the way. And let's take a look at, let me go to a larger gold chart. Okay, come on. Set as default. Let me make that smaller so that I can see it better, which it doesn't really want to let me do. We will get much better at this, I promise you. But okay, so I can do it. I'll just do it on this, right? So just like I was telling you before, in theory, right, it goes up to a certain level and you didn't liquidate it then, and you go, man, if it ever goes that high again, I'm going to sell it. And then that creates that pool of sellers at that level. The same thing happens on the bottom on the support level. And once a resistance level is broken, so a top level is broken, that then becomes the support level. So when I'm looking at this graph, I see it broke the 270870. That was kind of more recent. So I would say that it probably would go down and test the 2450-ish level, because look at how it went up here, bumped its head, went up here, bumped its head, went up here, bumped its head, right? So that creates the support level. So could I see it dip down a couple $100? Sure. Would I wait to see that dip? Because part of it isn't just the price, it's severely undervalued. So what difference does it make how much it is? Once you truly know that it's worth $40,000 or something like that, what difference does it make if it's at 2,700 or 10,000 or 30,000, right? As long as it's below the fundamental value, it's a bargain. So accumulate as you can accumulate. Don't worry about the nominal prices. And when it dips down, buy more. When it doesn't dip down, buy more. Just continue to accumulate. And we could look at the spot silver chart as well to see what that would look like. And you can do the same thing. And if you guys want me to do that, just let me know. And I'll put that together for you.
Absolutely.
And Richie Luxury asks, how can gold dip when central banks keep buying? Well, because they can create as much gold that does not exist as they want to. With physical, there are limitations. There's only so much of this out there. And it doesn't matter what the form is. There's a finite amount. And all of it fits into one, count it, one Olympic-sized swimming pool, right? So, but back in 2009, I saw from the Bank for International Settlements where they had created 62,000 ounces of gold for every 1 ounce of gold that exists, and that was 2009. So God knows how many ounces they've really created that we don't know, but that's how they do that. Gold should be much higher than this, and in the physical world would be, except for all of that price suppression. And the central banks don't want you to understand any of this that I'm telling you, but it's just a fact, and they know it. That's why they're accumulating. And they don't care how much it is because they don't even have to work for that money. They just push a button, bam, there it is.
Wow. Okay, so just to clarify, because I think this is the first time you've explained it in a way that I actually grasped it.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
Good. This is,
I apologize.
not sorry. No. Look, I love it when somebody new comes because I've been doing this on some level my entire life.
Right.
So what is just kind of like, well, sure, of
Right.
course, to me, isn't. So you ask those questions without apology.
So you're saying, okay, so the central banks are buying gold.
Yeah.
But
Hand over fist,
Your
most
belief is
highest
that they're
level
not
ever.
buying physical gold? Is that
No,
kind of
no,
right?
they're buying physical gold.
But they're also making gold as well, is what you're
You
saying,
mean
in
the
paper
contracts?
contracts. Correct.
Well, that's Wall Street's job.
Okay.
That's like the commercial bank's job.
Okay.
Right? And the central banks are there to support the commercial banks.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So entities like JP Morgan,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And Wells Fargo and all those guys.
Got it.
They
That makes
can
sense.
create as much Wall Street.
Yep, that makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Very much.
Okay. And also, I'll just say this about the central banks, and I don't know if I can get this fast enough, but let me see. Maybe I can. I don't know. Oh, wait.
And real quickly, I just want to say thank you to all 1,000 of you that are in the chat at the moment. Please give us a like. Let's get this stream to 500 likes.
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome. And have conversations. We should all be talking about this. Okay, okay. Central banks, they're working on it. I want to show you what I want to do is pull up. Yeah, let's see. I have one that's better than this, but let's see what this looks like. Maybe this will at least work for this explanation if I can get it to open. Open.
It's the sigh for me.
It's I don't think it's gonna let me, but I'll show you the next time. But you see, there's all these different contracts, and they create these contracts. So the reality is we really don't know how many different kinds of gold contracts were put out there.
Right.
Even when it looked like they were selling, it's just impossible to know.
Got
it's
it.
impossible to know because
it.
they do things in such a weird way. Okay, what do I mean by bullion being confiscated? Okay, so anything that is new, this is an American Eagle 2023 or 424, okay? That is classified as monetary gold. And I use what the IRS says that you can hold inside of an IRA, because historically in this country, gold has been confiscated 3 times before. The War of 1812, the Civil War. In fact, this is a Confederate bill, by the way, and again in 33. So in the U.S., there is clear historic precedence where governments will take your gold away so that they can inflate it to pay for the war. And Ron Paul was the one, and I agree with him, that said that it is no coincidence that the era of perpetual central banking and the era of perpetual war coincided, because I did studies on that. And if you go back prior to 1913, there were roughly 52, 54 years between wars. So they would confiscate the gold, you'd have your hyperinflation, then there was enough time in between the wars where people would forget and the same thing would happen again. But once we hit 1913, when we allowed the Federal Reserve to come in, and then I believe it was 1927 when the first time in history they gave them a perpetual charter. You see that the time distance between wars, and by the way, 1914 was the first World War. Okay, the time distance between wars grew shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And if I remember my notes correctly, I believe it was 1989 was when we went into a perpetual and constant state of war. So hence the industrial complex that has grown and grown and grown, and they use that all these different things for an excuse to inflate. Did that help? So bullion, at any rate, what I mean by bullion being confiscated, this is what I think it's likely to happen. Now, this is the new Eagle, and it has a face value of $50. It's an ounce, and that is because the official U.S. price of gold is $42.22. Now, if you hold your gold inside of an IRA, which is why I'm not crazy about IRAs, and they decided that they wanted to do a confiscation, some think that they would just go in, take your gold, and leave you $50. I don't think that, because if you just paid $3,000 or $5,000 or whatever you paid for with the spot plus whatever the premium is, you're going to be angry if they only leave you $50. But since it's easy to manipulate that spot market, then I think that what is more likely is, let's say spot's at, I used to say 2,000, but I can't say that anymore. Let's say it's at $5,000 when they decide to do a confiscation. Well, they don't want you to complain. So what they'll do is they'll pay you $10,000 for it. And you'll go, well, wow, because you're looking at Wall Street. It's only worth 5 and they're willing to pay me 10. Okay. And they do a big sweep and they wouldn't have any pushback or any problems with it. However, just like in 1933, when they bought this coin back from you, because this is the old one, right? They bought this back from you for $20.67, and then they did that overnight revaluation. All of a sudden, it was $35. So that's what a confiscation, in my opinion, is most likely to look like. But don't be fooled, because you're knowing the truth. It's worth a whole lot more than what they are going to give you. It's not gold going up. It's the value of this going down. And you can have 10 trillion of it and you can't buy anything with it.
Someone asked in the comments and I missed it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. what does squeeze mean when you're referring to the gold squeeze? What does that mean?
The gold squeeze. Okay, what that means is a whole lot more buyers of the physical than sellers, and because the costs are also going up, which means the miners are not going to sell their gold at a loss. They're going to stop mining and leave the gold in the ground. That means that I do think we are going to see prices go up substantially higher from here. But again, that's just the spot market. So it's like a squeeze. More buyers than sellers and costs going up. It's going to push the prices a whole lot higher than they are today. And thank you for asking that question. And Beverly Lowry asks, please explain what you mean when you say, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Where is a safe place to store your precious metals, in a home safe or a bank safe deposit box? So what I'm really talking about is, for example, a gold ETF. Because people think, well, I have a gold ETF. Isn't that gold? No, it's actually a contract, like the spot gold contract is. This would be a good time for me to do that, to show you the contract. But that's what I mean by, if you don't hold it, you don't own it, because all you have is a contract. And any contract is only as good as the counterparty to that contract. So you've got to hold it. And gold is the only, according to the Bank for International Settlements, gold is the only financial asset that runs no counterparty risk as long as you hold it at home. And I don't necessarily mean that you have to hold it physically in your house, but hold it in a private vault. Like, I can't really hold much of my gold in my home because obviously I'm way too visible. So I hold it in a private vault that I could walk to if I needed to. It'd probably take me a couple of hours to get there, but I could absolutely do that. So that's what I mean by, if you don't hold it, you don't own it, because what you actually have is just a contract if it's something like GLD. If you're holding it in a private vault, then that you can access in some way, then you're still holding the physical. You're not holding a contract. But what you're looking at here is spot gold versus GLD. And spot gold, these gold ETFs, are designed to mimic the spot price, not the true value. You cannot convert your shares into gold because all you do is actually own shares of a trust. So in this case, what you're looking at is, the red is the spot gold and the blue is the gold ETF. And let me take you back all the way to the beginning, when both of those lines were absolutely blurred, whether it was GLD or spot. But now you start to see a difference, because in the beginning, to lull you into this false sense of security and get liftoff, they didn't charge any fees, right? But then they started charging their fees, and they charge those on a daily basis. You could go into their 10K, you can see how much of their gold holdings they sell off on a daily basis in order to pay their fees. So GLD is actually a fee machine for the bankers, for JP Morgan, which is one of the administrators, because they have access to the underlying gold. And when you see that difference between the spot market and GLD grow wider and wider and wider, it's because there's less and less gold in there to support the contract. I mean, it really is just that simple. And this isn't me saying it. This is stock charts, the relative performance chart. That's why I wanted to give you the ability to do this on your own. And by the way, SLV looks just the same. And SLV can't even put together a basket of silver. So they changed the prospectus, indicating that its solo job is to mimic the spot market. It's really kind of a nightmare. So don't be fooled. And low blood pressure asks, Why can't Jerome hold down 10-year yield after cuts? 4.2 now. Thank you so much for bringing that up. That's exactly my point. The central banks are not more powerful than the markets with all of the derivatives that are in there. So remember how I've told you that this is a con game? And you remember how, this is how it worked. Back in 2008, during the great financial crisis, right? Bank-to-bank confidence died, as witnessed by the interbank lending, which just, boom, dropped off a cliff. In 2015, with the Swiss surprise, the Swiss central bank had vowed to hold the peg to the euro. And I can always go into the details of the backstory on that if you guys want. But the point is that the Swiss central bank vowed to hold the peg to the euro, Swiss franc to the euro. Vowed. 2 days after they came out and said, that is our highest priority, bam, they broke the peg. And so what that did in 2015 was it showed the central banks, it's dog eat dog, and one central bank is going to do whatever it is in their best interest first. So that was then the loss of central bank to central bank confidence. And what was it? I think it was in June of 22, where the central banks, since the great financial crisis, they came out and the central banks used forward guidance to tell Wall Street what they were going to do so that Wall Street could get into a position to benefit from it. And they kept telling Wall Street, we're going to raise interest rates by 50 basis points, 50 basis points, 50 basis points, 50 basis points, and bam, they raised it 75 basis points. And then all the key global central banks came out and said, well, maybe forward guidance isn't so important anymore. And the markets lost confidence in the Fed and in the central banks to do what they say they're going to do. And so what's the last level of confidence that's left? If we've missed bank to bank, central bank to central bank, Wall Street to central bank, it's the public. It's the public confidence in this, just like we were talking about earlier, Adam. Why can't you get this through your head? Because you've got to make a paradigm shift.
Correct.
And that is so hard to do.
It is hard. It is hard. I was just going to say really quickly, I had a small paradigm shift with COVID and watching them do the stimulus and watching who they were giving that stimulus to. I know you've talked about it before many times that there were people above, I think, $200,000 a year. What was it?
$250 and below got stimulated.
$250,000 a year were getting stimulated. Why does someone at $250,000 a year need a stimulus if that's a good living? Right. That's kind of where it hit me. I was like, wait, something's weird here, obviously. And then once I've been around you long enough, I'm starting to see some signs.
Well, and that's really what happened. I mean, maybe you can come back to this since you brought that up.
Yep.
And you remember when I did this, 2024, okay, 1913.
Oh, yeah.
Let me make this bigger.
Oh, I remember this
Can
one.
you see it?
Yep.
Okay. So, boy, I like being able to do this. Do you guys like this? Let us know. Let's have this conversation. But, okay, average income 1913 was $800. Spot gold, $20.67. And cost in ounces, $38.70. So if you had been paid in ounces of gold for the year, you would have gotten 38 ounces of gold. Now, we were still backed by gold, and I say that not because the public lost their ability to convert into gold in 1933, convert dollars into gold, but the rest of the world, governments could still convert dollars into gold up until 1971. At that time, $10,500 was the average wage. Spot gold was $42.22. Boom, they did that, another revaluation. And so if you'd been paid that in ounces of gold, 248.7. 2024, the average price or the average income is $59,228, you'd be going, whoa, I would much rather have 59,000 than 10,000 or 800. Except that 59,000, to your earlier point, they stimulated anybody that was making less than 250,000 a year.
Yep.
Okay?
Right.
I mean, you know, you are making less now at that average wage
Exactly.
than you did back in 1913.
Yeah,
and that was the plan. Because when they created the system for governments, they wanted to tax you invisibly. So there's your inflation tax. For corporations, they wanted to pay you less. But they knew that if you were used to getting $10, you weren't going to accept 5. But if they could make those $10 spend like 5, well, what do you think enabled the income and wealth inequality? There you go. You don't realize you're getting paid less because of that nominal confusion, but you are. You're getting paid less than you were back in 1913. And that's the whole point of having a component of gold, that you and I, as citizens, if we don't like what's happening, we can convert this garbage into sound money. Because, like I said, that's the only way for you to hold the toes to your fire. Otherwise, this is the kind of garbage that you get. Is that okay with you? Because if we go to CBDCs, it's going to be even worse than this. Even worse. Okay.
Some people did respond to you saying or asking about the chart. They said they like you being able to pull the chart data up.
Yay!
Carol said, love seeing your charts at 83 years old. Seeing is believing. How
That's
powerful is
it.
that?
That's why I'm Data Gal. Don't ever take my word for anything. I give you all the links. Follow them. Do your own due diligence. You come up with a different opinion than me, rock and roll hoochie coo. I can't tell you that is it valid. So I'm glad, because I agree with you. Seeing is believing. I don't care what anybody blah, blah, blah says. Let me see it. Yep. And Kathy Piscatello says, hello, Lynette. All the men comment on your hair. So I just wanted to say I like your hair. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. I kind of wanted a little change and to be able to do some different things. But why do some people think silver is going to soar to the moon? I hear that in many podcasts. Because people are thinking of it like a trade, Kathy. And it's not a trade. This is a currency life cycle issue, and silver is the secondary currency metal. But like I showed you in that relative performance chart, there are times when you will see it move more than gold, the spot silver market more than the spot. But that's why, because they're thinking of it like a trade, and they think that when it goes, look, when this goes to $2,000 an ounce, and that's my prediction, I'm not saying this year, but you will see this at some point at $2,000 an ounce. You're not going to want to liquidate it for that $2,000 unless you need to pay your property taxes, unless you need to buy that thing of strawberries, right? So just keep that in mind. But just like Adam was saying earlier, he's kind of still blinded and putting value in those dollars. And that's why you hear those comments, because people don't understand that it doesn't matter how many of these you have. 10, here, it says it right on there. 10 trillion Zimbabwe dollars. But I couldn't buy 3 eggs with it. It's just the numbers. We marry the numbers. That's why. And CBK123 asks, I started stacking gold 4 years ago when I started watching Lynette. Thank you very much. I'm honored. With the premiums then, I thought I was going to lose money. I was wrong. I was buying at $1,600 an ounce. Okay? You know, I don't know where that, here's the spring. I don't know really, but remember, a rise in gold price is an indication of a failing currency. So central banks need to suppress the price. Why do you think they allowed cryptocurrencies to soar? Because they wanted eyes on them. Why do you think they suppressed the price of gold? Because they don't want eyes on it. However, at some point, market forces take over, and that's what we're experiencing right now. And handy enough, it fell right into my drawer.
There you go. That was the last one for today.
But I have one more thing, just one more thing. So I'm trying to pull up the person. I'm sorry, because they had a kind of a funny comment. If I remember correctly, you've said that gold is priced by the government at like
$42.22.
How do I get them to give me an ounce at $42?
There ain't no way.
Yeah, how can
In
we legally get it
fact,
like that?
Since I have the ability to do that,
Because that's what they're going to give me,
let's-
right? They're going to give me that.
How do we know?
Well, if they were to confiscate,
Sure.
I don't actually think that they
Okay,
would do that.
okay.
I think they have the ability to do that.
Right.
So, okay, let's just go to the mint. Let's go to the mint. Okay, U.S. Mint gold coins for sale. Can you check and see? Can you call Jeff and check and see what 1 ounce of gold would be right at this time? To if somebody were going to buy it, if somebody that's watching were going to call and buy it.
Yep.
U.S. Mint. Okay, let's see. Oops.
Hey, Broski. By any chance, can you pull up a price for like an ounce of gold right now? What that would cost?
That for if somebody were going to buy it from us
Yeah.
right this second.
We're streaming. Let's just say someone called in right now and said, "I want to buy an ounce of gold." What would it be? No problem.
So while you're doing that, let me have the screen back so people can see this. Okay, so this is the Mint's website. If you were going to call the Mint, and which goes to an earlier question anyway, for 2024, so for this coin, it would be from the Mint between, so if you bought like a bunch of them, $2,935.76. If you're buying one, $3,025. So let's see. Because people might also assume that it is less expensive. And I could be wrong because I don't know what they're going to say. Did you say you love him?
I do love him.
I do love you, Jeff, if you're watching. The number was 2914 is what we got.
There you go.
Right.
Bam.
Right. I see it.
Right? So
I see
that
it.
goes to even a question that they asked first about going to the Mint or going someplace
Right.
else and blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah.
And he's obviously throwing out some more numbers saying, depending on the coin, we go as low as 2834. So, but that coin there, 2914. Yeah.
There you go. So that's it for today, but look at the difference that we're making together. We've got to build up this live, get those more questions in, and let's build this community and have that quiet revolution just by stacking. What a concept. Because that will force them to give us a seat at the table in the new system. And if I'm sitting in that seat representing us, or whoever's sitting in that seat representing us, I'm going to encourage them. It must be backed. It must be convertible, period. Because if it's not, don't believe the lies. And until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.